Hello, we're back, and in this little episode, we're going to be talking about prepping these cars for the actual paint. So, in the last episode, we put the primer on, sanded the cars down. Well, we took off the paint of the cars, we sanded the cars down, buffed them down, primed them, and put a clear coat on them. So, that's kind of the first step. In this round, what we're going to do is sand the cars down. So basically we're sanding that clear coat that was on top of the primer and just getting them ready for the base color coat. Now, to let you know what we're doing with these, we're going to put a base color coat of kind of like a sunburst gradient on them, and that's going to end up being the flame color. The cars in the end are going to be a black, but with kind of a sunburst flame on them, if that makes sense. So something along the lines of, say, this car here, just because it's available. Show it to you. So something along the lines of this car, where it's going to be a black main coat, but that in our case it'll be red to yellow. In this one it's kind of a yellow to a silver. That's going to show through. So we're basically going to use a negative mask on it. And if you like to use positive masks or rattle cans or whatever you do, it's all the same process. It's just in the next video I'll explain the coloring more. So all we're going to do here is sand these things down. Now, about half of these castings I've already got sanded. It takes me probably about a minute per each car here, and we're doing this edition of Torinos for the most part. So what I use to sand it, now remember, this is the car's already been, get by my microphone. The car's already been, paint's been stripped off, the car's been primed, and then there's a clear coat on top. And I use this stuff. It's 3M 1000. It's this wet dry stuff. It's basically a very, very light grit sandpaper. One of my friends uses 2000. It's probably not going to matter because it really just depends on the pressure that you apply. So it's whatever you're used to. But I'll show you what I do. I'm going to put the mic down, so I hope you can hear me. So I cut out a little teeny piece. It's really tiny. This is only about as big as the car itself. And what I'm going to do is just use one end, sand one car, and then rip that end off. If you use the sandpaper too much, the primer will kind of ball up on the sandpaper and it'll rip the primer off. So I'll show you. Alright. So something like this one here, all I'm going to do, and there's my sandpaper, so this is 1000 grit, is just very lightly, and usually I kind of get most of it in the ball of my hand like this, is very lightly just sand, and we call it sanding. It's really not sanding. We're not trying to grind down anything. All we're doing is just knocking off that grit, because when the primer and the clear coat go on, and this is true whether it's a rattle can or airbrush, doesn't really matter, the paint basically dries in the air, a lot of it, and so it balls up when it hits the surface, and of course that's on a really, really tiny little level. And so what you get are these kind of like little balls of paint that land down on the surface. See how that gets on the sandpaper there? Oh, here you can't see it. See how that gets on the sandpaper? That's the primer, at least the primer I use. I just rip that off. Once it gets like that, you just rip it off and let it fall to the ground and just go to the next part. You got to have your sandpaper nice and clean. Right, let's get it on there. And if you take a little bit of the primer off, don't worry about it. You can either touch it up, it's just primer. And see how like there's a little piece of trim there on the trunk? I'm not going over that trim. If you do, the raised areas, you're going to knock the primer off. If you want to sand those raised areas, you're going to have to kind of go back separate. Like, see, there's a little raised piece there on the roof, or on the hood. So all I'm going to do is just treat each flat surface separate. And it's a really light pressure. It's just enough to knock off the grit. See there, I kind of knocked off some of my primer. That's what I mean. See how it kind of balls up there on the sandpaper? It always knocks the primer off when you do that. So we'll just go back in. It's just primer. I'll just touch it up. Real light. See, there's another one. Not doing a very good job on this one. Usually I do better. Usually I can get through the whole car without doing anything like that. So now it's pretty smooth to the touch. It's kind of got like a silky surface to the touch. So I do that for all the cars. If I'm doing a large run of them, I got to do that for each one of them. So what it's going to do is it gives the paint a nice smooth surface to go on. We're going to do the whole process again after they're painted, and you always got to clear. If you try to do this and you're not using a clear coat, you're just going to destroy the paint job. I mean, there's no way you're going to be able to sand paint. It's just, it won't work. So you got to put the clear on top of it. And if you find that you're peeling paint off a lot, maybe something like you just saw there that I did, or the paint's kind of balling up and kind of peeling off in strips when you're sanding it, it might be that you're just not using enough clear. You really got to put a lot of clear coat on it. The clear is a really thin coat, so it's not going to hurt anything if you put a little bit more on. So I'm going to get the rest of these prepped for painting, and I'll be back over in the paint area here in just a minute. Okay, and we're just finishing up this base coat of color, and we're painting a gold. So in this case I'm using, what is this, pearl copper, I guess I said a gold, pearl copper. And so I'm using that as my base coat, and I'm going to put a translucent or transparent paint on top so that metal flake pearl will show through. And this is going to be the color of the flames. So eventually these cars are going to be black. We're just doing the flames right now. So I'm going to put the microphone down and I'll finish up the last one. Okay, so get my microphone. So all I've done there is just painted that base copper pearl. It doesn't have to be a perfect coat because most of that's going to be covered up. So the next round we're going to put an orange on it, and that should give it kind of like a golden tinge, and that's what some of the flame color is going to be. So I'm going to turn off the camera and I'll go ahead and do that. So now we're putting on this, what do we got here? this transparent orange. And remember, the base coat was this stuff. It was this pearlized color, which I do that a lot, is if you put a pearl or a metal flake down first over the white primer, and then you color it with a transparent, and some of these are transparent. You can also use clear. You can use this stuff, this transparent base, if you want to make them transparent. You can mix your own. But I'm using this transparent orange on top. And so what I'm going to get, and I'll show you the difference. The difference is pretty subtle. Here's one that's been painted. Now remember, this is just going to be the flame color in the end. Here, I'll put it a little closer. It's just going to be the flame color. So we're not going to see most of that. So don't worry about little imperfections. It's not going to matter. And here's the original. So let me see if I can get two of these together here for you. And when I put them side by side, you'll be able to tell the difference. Be careful so I don't chip the paint. The one closest to the camera is the one just with that copper base coat. And it looks really flat here on camera because I'm not in the sun. But that is really sparkly. It'll look fantastic. It'll look like a pearl paint. The other one there is the one with that transparent orange sprayed on it. So my flames in the end are just going to be like the tail licks of the flames are going to be this yellow. Eventually, you're not going to see most of that. You'll see here in future videos. We're going to cover up most of it. So it's lots of layers. It's kind of the same as watercolor. You got to work a little backwards to get the colors that you want. Okay, I'm going to finish these up, and I'll be back when they're all... Okay, and we're all set. So we got basically 2 more coats of paint on there of what will be a lot of coats of paint. I've got, all my cars are kind of this golden, oh, I guess you'd call it a golden copper color. I should make up a golden sunset copper or something. And most of them are going to be for the addition. You see there's a few extra cars in there. Andrew is playing around with a few cars too, so he wanted me to paint them. But the next step is going to be, we're going to add some red and kind of get that sunset effect that's going to give us the gradient through our flame. And if that doesn't make sense, it will. But what you're seeing now is going to be the flame color, not the car color. That actually goes on last. So I'll see you back in the next video, and we'll just keep making these. I'll keep documenting them, and if it's a help to anybody, then great. And yep, we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Okay, we're back, and what you can see we've done here is I've painted a pearl red on the front of each car. So now they look kind of ugly, to be honest, and they're not done. What that's going to be, let's get a one you can see a little better here. How about this one? This is a good example. What that's going to end up being is the whole car is going to be black, but it's going to have red and gold flames. And so the flames will start as red up towards the front of the car and then trail off to that gold kind of copper color in the back. And so right now they look like they just ran through some sort of massacre. and there's one here with green on it. He's going to be that's a different model. That's Andrew's. You can see there's a dairy delivery back there mixed in also for that's a custom we're making for a friend. But yeah, you can see like these flame masks here, they are going to cover up parts of the car. We're going to spray the rest of the car black and then peel off the mask, and you'll be left with flames. So and just to reiterate what we did, we started with a base coat of primer, white. Then we sprayed that with clear. We let that dry. We sanded it with 1200 grit sandpaper or 1000 grit sandpaper very carefully, and then smoothed it all out. Then we went back in. I covered it with a coat of pearl. It was copper or gold or something like that, some color. And then I went back in with a pearl, and then we covered it with a translucent orange, and then we did the front end in a pearl red, and now we've sprayed it with another coat of clear. We're going to let these dry, and I usually let them dry at least overnight. Actually, I work the next couple days, so they're going to sit here for a few days. But when I come back, we're going to sand them again because they have clear on them. Anytime you're going to sand them, you got to put clear on it. And then we're going to start dealing with the masks and paint on the black next. So that'll be the next round. So I'll see you then. Bye bye.